Rev the engines!
I thought I told him to spray it with water to retain moisture before applying the film. You can't treat a glaze lily like a cactus. If Sanjay does the—
I'll go talk to him. At this rate, he won't even be able to afford—
Hey, Tainari!
Oh, it's you two. It's been a while.
We didn't have anything to do, and this place looked pretty lively, so we decided to stop by.
Well, Port Ormos is currently organizing a flower exhibition featuring The exhibition includes flowers from every corner of the world, each with their own unique properties and needs. Even so, an expert is still required to develop tailored transportation and care plans for each type of flower.
Oh, and that expert is you, right?
Not this time, no. I'm just here to help out. The expert in charge is—
Mr. Tainari! Sanjay! He confused the poisonous—
Never mind. Forget about what I said about the food Apologies, Traveler, Paimon. Looks like I've got something to take care of.
Tainari's busy no matter where he is, huh? Yeah, seems like it. Hey, don't look at Paimon like that! Well, looks like Tainari might be busy for a while. Let's take a look around. Wow, look at these flowers! They smell so...
Huh?
Paimon's... fine. She's just got a little...
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilia's? No wonder.
It's getting worse. But, I was fine just...
A moment of your time, you two? If it's not too much trouble, perhaps you could try this incense.
Incense? Oh, the scent is so... Whoa, that was fast! Paimon doesn't have to sneeze anymore!
Think nothing of it. From your attire, I imagine you two aren't from Sumeru either. Seeing as we're both travelers from abroad, it's only right that we help each other out.
Oh, so you're here for the flower exhibition too?
I suppose that's accurate. Allow me to introduce myself.
Paimon is Paimon! Thank you so much for your help just now. Oh, and...
The Traveler, right? I've heard a lot about you from the Steambird. It's nice to finally put a face to the name.
What happened back there? Why did Paimon start sneezing all...
Have you ever heard of hay fever? To put it simply, when inhaled, certain pollen...
But Paimon has seen these kinds of flowers before and nothing weird happened.
Well, we're all different. The factors that can trigger a reaction to certain stimuli vary by person. But there's no need to worry. Pollen allergies can be effectively mitigated with the use of
Oh, well, that's good.
Traveler, Paimon, there you are. I left in such a hurry, I forgot to warn you about all the pollen in the air. Emily? Ah, what a coincidence. Looks like my worry was misplaced.
It was nothing, really. We happened to run into each other shortly after my arrival, and I'm more curious as to why you thought the Traveler and Paimon were in danger.
Remember the first time we met? You fainted after inhaling Spirit Borneal.
The Spirit Borneal didn't affect Paimon at all, and...
It's not really something you can make sense out of, Paimon. There are all kinds of allergies out there, caused by a variety of different...
Exactly. I even encountered a case in Fontaine where someone had an allergic reaction to soba noodles their family brought back from Inazuma.
Whoa. Good thing Paimon isn't allergic to anything delicious.
in a manner of speaking, although you could...
In addition to medicine, Emily is also very knowledgeable about botany. She's taught me a lot about the native flora around Fontaine.
And that's where my expertise ends, I'm afraid. When it comes to...
A flower expert? Oh, Paimon's got it! You must be the expert Tainari mentioned, the one in charge of the exhibition!
Wrong again, I'm afraid.
Well, I did come for the exhibition, but only to inquire about the Auguste variety. I'm not involved.
Oh, Paimon was sure she got it right this time.
It's a kind of flower that was once popular in Fontaine. The perfume made from it...
Auguste, huh? That's not a name you hear often.
In an ancient language, the word is said to mean sacred or noble. It's sometimes used as a name for people as well. Ah, that reminds me. Are you familiar with a historical event in Fontaine known as Perfumania? Perfumania was an event that occurred in Fontaine nearly 20... It all started when several merchants released their own lines of high-end, expensive perfumes, marketing them as must-have luxury products. No one anticipated the absolute frenzy this would create on the market, causing the demand was twofold. What some saw as a status symbol, most saw as a money-making opportunity. You could take advantage of the soaring price by hoarding them. The value of these products became so inflated, regular bottles of perfume were even going for hundreds of thousands of mora. This resulted in countless disputes and scams. But at the end of the day, perfume is just perfume. The market value greatly exceeded the intrinsic worth of the product. Luckily, the Palais Mermonia recognized the danger and intervened before the craze could truly spread. Many profiteers and scammers were thrown in jail as a result. In the end, only a few wealthy families were affected when the bubble popped.
What does all this have to do with that Auguste you mentioned earlier?
Well, during the craze, the most popular perfume was none other than Auguste. The demand far exceeded the supply, to the point where it once sold for 10 million mora a bottle.
10 million? Then what about...
After the mania ended, most perfumes returned to a normal price. Auguste was the only exception. Its namesake, the flower used to create it, went extinct. As a result, no new bottles of Auguste have been made, and the value of the perfume remained. Indeed. The Auguste flower was not a natural variety, you see. It was specially cultivated for use in perfume making. When the bubble popped, all the flower beds used for its cultivation were destroyed in a fire. The variety...
But didn't you say you came to the exhibition to look for it?
Ah, yes. I came to investigate a certain rumor that the Auguste flower has reappeared in Sumeru. It's causing quite the stir in the...
Traveler, we should help Emily look for it.
I have to agree. Emily wrote me to ask if I could look into the rumor, but the forest rangers have...
Even if I can locate the flower, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, Paimon. I don't have any grand mora-making endeavors planned. Divine, noble, one of a kind, all beautiful sentiments to be sure, but to me, they overshadow. When it comes to perfume, I want people to forget the price and the prestige and focus on the beauty of the fragrance itself.
Wow, so noble.
Of course, there's also a more practical reason. In recent years, low-grade counterfeit versions of Auguste have been popping up. Every so often, someone will claim to have recreated the unique scent of Auguste, and the rumor mill will start comparing the counterfeits.
Okay, that's more like the reason.
Ever since that rumor started, 3 new perfumes claiming to be made from the Auguste flower have appeared on the market. If I can dispel the fanaticism surrounding Auguste, even just by proving the rumor to be false, then I'll be free from all the stories and added meaning and just focus on making what I like.
That makes sense.
Oh, I would of course be grateful for your help, but I wouldn't want to trouble you.
Well, you said it yourself. We're both travelers from abroad, so it's...
Ha! I suppose you're right.
Based on the information I have so far, it's unclear if the rumor is true. Mr. Edgar also thinks it's too early to say, but you could always go talk to him. He was there all those years ago after.
Huh, I was just about to pay him a visit at the hotel.
Edgar? Who's that?
The person you've been trying to guess this whole time. The flower expert in charge of the exhibition. Back when he was still working in Fontaine, Auguste, what?
I should also mention, he was my teacher, the one who taught me the basics of perfumery when I apprenticed.
So this guy was a famous perfumer in Fontaine, but then he came to Sumeru to teach people from Fontaine? It sounds confusing.
It's a long story. If you're interested, we can talk more about it when we see him. He should be staying near the hotel.
Oh, look at all the flowers!
Apparently, the exhibitor paid a large sum to rent out the hotel and surrounding buildings. They're being used as temporary storage facilities and lodging for
Yeah, what if guests come early? They won't have anywhere to stay. Also, renting out this big of a hotel, how are they gonna make that Mora back?
It's been so long, I almost didn't recognize you, Edgar.
Well, you and your brother haven't changed a bit.
Oh, yeah, look, all this catching up is nice and all, but let's get down to business.
Hold on, we have guests.
It's nice to see you again, Master.
Emily? Is that you? Oh, it's been years. I've heard you've become quite the famous perfumer in Fontaine. It would...
Oh, well, it's all thanks to your mentorship.
Hardly. I taught you the basics. Hearing you call me master, well, I've taught many students here in Sumeru over the years, but I've yet to see one turn out quite as accomplished as you. And who are these two? I don't recall you mentioning them in your letter.
They're my new friends, the Traveler and Paimon.
Emily's friends. Well then...
And these two gentlemen? Are they friends of yours, Master?
Of course. We're perfume merchants from Fontaine. I'm Oud, and this here is my younger brother, Blake.
Yes.
Merchant brothers?
You must be here to look for the August flower, then.
Huh?
Well, what respectable perfume merchant hasn't heard of a Auguste? Anyone in the business.
I'm guessing you're here for the same reason, Emily. We were just about to get into it, so you three might as well join in. I commissioned a few eremites to do some scouting for me. That being said, there are people in Port Ormos who claim to have smelled some of them were merchants who lived in Fontaine 20 years ago. According a one-of-a-kind, divine, and noble scent.
Maybe someone around here just happens to have a bottle of August from back then.
No, I don't think so. I doubt that's the case. Even if someone had a bottle that was never opened, the fragrance of the perfume would have... Auguste is even more prone to that kind of shift. Only a few bottles still exist in Fontaine, and their scent would have completely degraded by now. Although, could there be a flower out there with a similar fragrance?
Impossible. If a goose were that easy to replicate, it would never have sold for such a high price all those years ago. The Auguste flower is back.
Technically speaking, the scent wouldn't be impossible.
Well, let's table that question for now. Edgar, did any of those people mention where the scent was coming from?
No. By the time they realized they had smelled something, the scent was already gone. Compared to things we see and hear, smells can be much easier to overlook.
It almost sounds like someone wearing the Auguste fragrance passed them on the street.
Wait, are you saying...
Just thinking out loud.
We don't have much to go off of right now, but we can't rule out that possibility. I'll send some more people to... You all traveled so far to be here. Why don't you rest in the hotel for a bit?
Ooh, you've got the keys to the rooms? Do we get free lodging too?
My apologies. All the rooms in the hotel are accounted for, I'm afraid. Most are being used for... I managed to tidy up one of the rooms for these two at the last minute. But by the time Emily wrote to me, there was no more space left.
Oh, and we just showed up out of the blue. Guess that means...
I should have been more considerate. Here I am with an entire hotel at my disposal and no place to offer you to...
Don't worry, Master. I can sleep on the boat tonight. Or I could even camp in the wild. It would give me the opportunity to collect some plant specimens while I'm here in Sumeru. Ah, even better. Although, would it be possible for me to leave some of my luggage here? It would be
Well, about...
Of course, no trouble at all. My brother and I will keep an eye on them.
All right, then. Ood, why don't you take Emily inside? I'll prepare some refreshments and join you in a bit.
Whoa, the smell of flowers is so strong. Didn't Edgar say he tidied up around here? Paimon took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers. Looks like this exhibition is gonna be huge.
No, that's a florist thing. We work closely with the essential oils of various plants. But to maintain a sharp sense of smell, most perfumers prefer to keep...
Oh, guess there's just too much to store for the exhibition then.
Oh, this room seems to be a connected suite, and my brother will be staying on the other side of the suite. Blaze, while you're out, why don't you bring our luggage over it? Blaze!
Yes, of course.
All right, then. Where can we find your luggage, mademoiselle? Blaze will...
It's still at the port. In addition to some daily necessities, there's also a case of amber wine that I brought back from Fontaine. Could I trouble you to bring that back as well? It would be the
How generous. I should thank you on my brother's behalf. You stumbled upon...
Is that so? Mr. Ood, Mr. Blaze, thanks for...
Hey! What are you doing?
That's Master's voice.
Edgar!
Master!
Hey, Edgar! Are you all right?
Who did this?
Kyria.
Kyria.
Hey, Edgar? Edgar!
No, don't shake him. He's injured. Just leave him to me. You two can... Oh, thank you.
That strange smell around here. Is it coming from this bottle? Oh, really? You think so? Do you think whoever did this was hiding in the flowers before they attacked Edgar? True.
I checked. It doesn't look...
Oh, but that's impossible. It's not like that kid. Oh, the culprit, I mean. It's not like the culprit could have just disappeared into thin air.
Well, we looked all over, but the only clue we found was that...
The most important thing we can do now is focus our efforts on treating Master. Can you help me move him inside?
So, how's he doing?
When I administered emergency treatment, I discovered a residue in his nose and mouth. Master, he's still unconscious, and inducing vomiting could obstruct his airways. We'll have to look into other clues for now. Ah, yes. The scent is the same, but the chemical composition is still unclear. But first, I do believe there are 2 people who could shed some light on the situation. Mr. Sylvain, Mr. Lucien.
Wait, you know...
Hey! Were you talking to us, mademoiselle? I'm afraid we've never heard of those names.
Before arriving in Sumeru, I asked a friend from the Special Patrol to look into the creators of Auguste. There were 4 people in total. The perfumer, Edgar, the one thrust into the limelight, a researcher from Sumeru responsible for cultivating the Auguste flower. The 2 brothers capitalized on the mythos surrounding Auguste. Their actions lured in numerous speculators. In the end, they were sent to the fortress of Meripede for falsifying their accounts and destabilizing the market. If you do the math, they should be out of prison by now.
And what does that have to do with us? There are countless merchant families in Fontaine. You gonna accuse them of being criminals too?
Every time your brother called you Blaze, it took you several seconds to respond. But when I called you Lucien just now, the name registered and...
Ah, Miss Emily, out of respect for your position as a famous perfumer in Fontaine, I'm inclined to believe that was... You have a bright future ahead of you. You wouldn't want to develop a reputation as someone who throws around...
You claim to be regular perfume merchants, and yet, when I brought up amber wine, you took it to be alcohol.
What?
Amber wine is a perfume I created several years ago. It wasn't particularly renowned, but until recently, they were living somewhere completely cut off.
Emily, you little...
Don't misunderstand, Mr. Sylvain. I don't bring this up to criticize you, no matter what happened, but Master's life is in danger. We need to learn whatever we can about the person who has done this. If Master's attack had something to do with Auguste, I would imagine the 2 of you might also be in danger. So I'd like to trouble you for some information, if I may. Tell me...
Fine. As you...
Sylvain!
Lucien, if this will help us find Kyria, then it will be all worth it. Besides, we've already told most of... You were right, Miss Emily. There were 4 of us at the beginning. Myself, Lucien. Sometime down the road, the Marechaussee Phantom came knocking. Saddled us with a list of accusations.
Sounds like he's still upset about that. Wait, then how did Edgar end up in Sumeru?
Master was convicted as an accomplice, so he only had to serve a few years. He decided to move to Sumeru so that he could put those events... Still, Master was depressed for a long time after that. He stopped making new perfumes and That's how I met him. My parents had to relocate to Sumeru for work when I was a child, so I had the chance to study under him for a little while. But we can talk about that some other time. I want to hear more about this researcher, Vijava.
Like us, Vijava was also staring down an investigation from the But before the Phantom showed up at her door, she set all the flower...
But destroying all that evidence, wouldn't that make things worse for her?
It didn't matter at that point, because she died in the fire as well.
What?
sounds like you did an investigation of your own. Why even ask us if you knew all of this already?
The name wasn't mentioned in any of the files I reviewed either. But you two seem quite familiar.
Kiria was Vijava's younger brother. He was just a clueless kid back then. Somewhere in his teens, I think. He helped his sister with her work sometimes. Vijava kept him close most of the time. The three of us were probably the only ones who even knew she had a brother. After our operation was compromised, he disappeared. There were no signs of him until recently, when people started saying the Auguste flower.
So, you think Kiria took something with him back then? Something that allowed him to reproduce the Auguste flower?
Vijava doted on the kid like you wouldn't believe. She even told us to, if she left something behind before she died, believe me.
And judging by the liquid in that bottle, the Auguste flower wasn't the only thing he reproduced. He managed to replicate the perfume itself.
So the liquid Edgar was forced to ingest really was Auguste.
Poison? No. Of course not. No, if Auguste could be considered a poison, we wouldn't have even sold half a... He probably thought we had something to do with his sister's death. We're not looking for Kiria because we have it out for him. We just wanted to see how he was doing. We only went to prison for a bit of fraud and market manipulation. As long as we keep things honest this time around, bringing the product...
So that's why you never mentioned Kiria during your interrogation?
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, that's all we know. If you're looking for information on what's in...
Well, at least we're able to say for certain that the substance Edgar ingested was in fact Auguste.
Well, glad to hear it. Lucian, let's head back to the room and rest a bit. With everything that's
Yes, of course.
You think so too? That does seem to be the case. Pity we don't have more evidence. But based on Sylvain's tone of voice just now, I suspect further questioning will only result in more made-up answers.
The way you exposed them like that, just based on a hunch, that was genius! Oh, right! Earlier you said you were only sort of a doctor, and that your patients were...
Oh yes, that's because most of the patients I encounter are already dead.
So you're a forensic doctor?
Close. I'm actually a forensic cleaner. Once the forensic team and the Marechaussee Phantom are done collecting evidence from the scene, I'm in charge of clearing away the final traces my patients leave on the world. In fact, with just a small alteration to the formula, the same tincture used as the base of perfume can also be made. Basically, there are two sides to forensics. Those who collect evidence to expose the truth, and I've learned a lot in my line of work, and I've witnessed a lot of death. But this time, we may still save the patient. Actually, Traveler, could I trouble you to report back to Tainari and the officers at Port Ormos? I'll stay here and continue to look after Master. Now that we have a sample of Auguste, I'm hoping further analysis won't be too difficult.
Full throttle!
Whoa, why the rush? Did something happen?
What? Edgar was attacked? He's the most famous perfumer in the region. Someone who's helped countless people around Port Ormos. How could this happen?
Sheriff, have you received any reports of a suspicious individual fleeing through the bazaar?
No, but we've got eyes all over the area. I'm sure someone's seen Kyria. I'll start gathering my forces. We won't let him get away.
What about you, Tainari? Do you have a plan?
I'm sure the sheriff can handle things over at the scene, and I doubt Emily needs my help looking after Mr. Edgar.
But she said she's not a real doctor.
Then she was far too modest. She may not be a doctor by trade, but she has a deeper understanding of human anatomy and pharmacology than most scholars from the Amorta Darshan. Not to mention the fact that Mr. Edgar's condition is related to perfume. Emily is certainly in the best position to help him. As for me, I'll head to the academia and see what I can learn about Vijava and Kyria.
Oh, that's right! Vijava was supposed to be a scholar from Sumeru. Do you recognize the name?
From Emily's letter, certainly, but that was the first time I'd heard of it. The academia produces a lot of scholars, and there are plenty of graduates who choose to pursue a career outside their darshan. I didn't have time to look into it earlier, but now it seems like Vijava's past could be critical to getting to the bottom of what happened to Mr. Edgar. I have friends in Sumeru City that can help me investigate. With any luck, we'll have news to share by tomorrow. I'll leave you and Emily to watch over things here in Port Ormos.
Well, it's been a day. Wonder if Tainari's discovered anything.
It's okay.
But things weren't looking good with Emily's master yesterday. We should check on things at the hotel first. Emily!
No longer in critical condition, thankfully. He's still very weak, but with a bit more rest, he should regain consciousness soon. My chemical analysis of a goose also went smoothly, although it certainly raised some questions. I was able to identify the components that give the substance its fragrance.
Elemental energy?
Hard to say. It was such a minute amount, proportionally speaking. Like mixing a single drop, I had to use one of the newest tests developed in recent years to even detect the traces present. Unless you were abnormally sensitive to elemental energy, I doubt it would have any effect, even if you... As for whether Master's condition was caused by the elemental energy present in the sample or some...
Oh, that reminds Paimon. Did Tainari come and find you?
I received a message from him last night, but I haven't heard anything since.
Oh, Paimon thought he might have stopped by to see you first. Excuse me? Is Miss Emily here? Oh, perfect! Familiar faces! Traveler!
Kale. Ah, of course. Tainari's apprentice. He's mentioned you many times. And please, no need for formalities. Emily is just fine.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you too, Miss, Emily. Did Tainari send you here, Kale? Yep. Master and the others went through decades worth of records last night, and still haven't had a chance to rest. I'm fast on my feet. Anyway, based on what they've reviewed so far, they believe there's no indication that a researcher by the name Master considered that possibility as well. But the name wasn't the only dead end. Master tried to track— How is that possible?
It's starting to seem very likely. If we want to figure out—
Hey! Lucian!
It's Sylvain! Wait, you don't think Kirio came back, do you?
That seems impossible. If someone came in or out of the hotel just now— It's locked?
Lucian! Lucian! Come on! Emily, Emily! My brother, he's gonna be okay, right?
I'm sorry, Mr. Sylvain, but
No, no, that's not possible!
Traveler, Kale, Mr. Sylvain has gone through a huge shock. He needs some space to calm down. Could one of you take him next door?
Of course. Leave it to me.
Thank you both. Mr. Sylvain, let's get you up. We'll take things from here. Just focus on getting some rest. Here, this way.
Poor guy. He's like a shell of his former self. He may have made some bad decisions in life, but
Good person or bad, the death of a loved one is equally painful. All the moments he shared with his brother, every hardship and triumph.
if Kirio really was behind this, then what exactly did he do?
Lucian can no longer speak, but the traces left behind by his death. Traveler, I've got things covered here at the scene. I'll leave you to contact the sheriff.
Who would have thought? Yesterday's case is still up in the air. Miss Emily, I heard you're an experienced forensic doctor. Have you been—
Oh, I'm not actually a forensic doctor. I just happen to have some relevant knowledge. I did take a look, though. Judging by the temperature and rigidity of the body—
Then, would you mind helping us investigate? Before he left, Tainari said we could trust your—
Of course, I appreciate your trust. Many of the traces left behind at the scene will—
We'll help too. We don't know much about dead bodies, but And the windows are shut tight, too. Seems like the only way to get in would have been through Sylvain's room.
Lucian.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Well, looks like we've investigated as much as we can. Let's go report back to Emily and Shiam.
So, did you find anything?
Paimon can show you. Here, it'd be something like this.
But entering through the room next door without alerting Sylvain... Wait, you don't think...
No, his reaction to the loss of his brother seemed genuine, and he doesn't have a motive.
Then what could have happened last night? I know Sylvain is still in shock, but he's our only available witness.
I agree. Also, I've made some new discoveries, so we...
Mr. Sylvain, I need you to tell me everything you and your brother did since yesterday afternoon.
After Kyria attacked Edgar, my brother and I we returned to our rooms and decided to lock all the doors. The only door we kept unlocked was the one connecting our rooms. But I didn't hear any sort of commotion last night. Not a single noise. I woke up this morning.
So, no movement from the room next door. No forced entry via Sylvain's room. No signs of a struggle at the scene. And no external injury on Lucian's body.
I did notice a few things about the body. Lucian's pupils were dilated, and his skin was flushed. Very similar to Master's. There weren't any traces of liquid in his mouth or nose, so it's unlikely he was forced to ingest anything. The more plausible explanation is that he inhaled a substance without knowing it.
A goose? No, that's not possible. Inhaling a goose won't kill you. No. Emily, you ran your tests, didn't you? Go on. Tell everyone whether you found...
No, I didn't find any common toxins.
See? A goose is harmless. The market response proved that you...
That may be true for most people, but not for everyone.
Master!
Edgar? You're up and about already?
Thanks to Emily, I'm Sylvain. No matter how hard you may try to...
Edgar!
Even if we could keep it a secret for another 10 or 20 years, do you think Kyria would know? He would never give up. Not if he's doing all of this for Yelena. That's Vijava's real name. Yelena wasn't a scholar from Sumeru. She was an exiled Fatus from Snezhnaya.
A Fatus?
The Fatui. Well, that means that...
Ah, so you've already detected it.
Oh.
The August flower was created with the mutative and distorting power of a
A delusion?
The Fatui, delusions... I never would have thought Auguste was hiding this many secrets.
Born of a delusion, Auguste contained distorted elemental energy. A prolonged exposure over many years could have a harmful effect on...
That's enough, Edgar. At first, Yelena wanted to keep refining the perfume and the flower. But no one knew how long the perfume... It didn't have any effect on ordinary people anyway. Every day we...
So you decided poisoning people was worth the risk?
Listen, it's not like it was good for business. But all that talk about Auguste being harmful over time... Yelena was just speculating. Unless you were particularly sensitive to elemental energy or had an entire bottle shoved down your throat like Edgar, you could use...
It may be true there are no records of Auguste poisoning in Fontaine. But even if no one was acutely poisoned, willfully bringing a product to market despite explicit knowledge of its harmful effects is still a serious crime. That explains why you were so intent on keeping Yelena and Kyria's involvement a secret all this time, despite readily confessing to all your financial... The Fatui, delusions, Auguste... If the Maréchaussée Phantom discovered the connection between the three, there would have been enough evidence to send you...
Ha! If I'd known coming to Sumeru would put a target on my back, I would have been more than happy to stay there. All these years without any sign of Kyria, and he pops up out of nowhere the minute my brother and I get out of prison? Auguste was harmless before. The fact that it's killing people all of a sudden must...
So there's bad blood between you.
What about Yelena's death? Was that a cover-up too? Oh.
I'll admit, we thought about it at one point. We took care to disguise the products circulating on the market, and no one was questioning Yelena. But if the Maréchaussée Phantom decided to look into the flower beds, it would have been the end. Yelena's tired. Before we could even put our plan in motion, Yelena beat us to it. She burned all her flower beds.
But if her goal was to destroy evidence, there would have been no reason to do that to herself.
Yeah, she could have just burned the flower beds and fled with her brother.
I thought about it for a long time, but it wasn't until just now that I've... Everything she did. One of the reasons they defected from the Fatui was the deterioration of Yelena's body, due to her excessive use. After arriving in Fontaine, Yelena continued using the delusion to cultivate the Auguste flower, weakening her body even further.
So she couldn't flee with her brother because she was afraid of holding him back.
If her true identity was exposed, she and her brother would face pressure from both Snezhnaya and Fontaine. The Auguste flower and Yelena's own corroded body both bore the mark of a delusion. So, in the end, she burnt it all to ash, including herself. With all the evidence erased, Kyria...
So the wealth you earned from Auguste, it wasn't destroyed in the fire. Yelena gave it to her brother?
Most likely. Before Yelena died, she said if anything happened to her, she was going to leave everything to her brother. We just didn't realize she meant our... That's why Lucien and I were searching for Kyria, to take back Armora and the Auguste flower. We just didn't realize Kyria was bait.
But why is Kyria out for revenge anyway? Doesn't he know about Yelena's
I don't think he knew his sister was nearing death. Yelena always wore heavy makeup around him to conceal her deteriorating appearance. She kept herself busy with work to keep out of...
Then all we'll need to do is tell Kyria what really happened, and then he'll give up on it.
I'm not so sure. Even if he knew the truth, he'd still find someone to blame. He might think Yelena was forced into using a delusion to cultivate Auguste. Or it's hard to pull yourself out of that kind of hatred. Especially when you've been living in that headspace for so many years.
Very true. Even if Yelena's death was her own choice, I wouldn't call myself innocent either.
Edgar, what are you talking about?
Think about it, Sylvain. If we hadn't been in such a hurry to capitalize on the perfume mania all those years ago, do you think if we hadn't been so blinded by greed, so insistent on increasing the scale of the flower cultivation, do you think Yelena's health would... If we hadn't invited the Marechaussee Phantom to our doorstep by breaking the law at every turn?
She knew her limits. She knew her days were numbered. Maybe it was for her brother, but she was in it for the Mora. We were just trying to earn a bit of Mora. And what, we deserve to die for that? Target me for being the mastermind, sure. But what about Lucien's crime? Was it really so extreme that he had to pay?
The only person that can answer that question is a judge.
Fine. I've said my piece anyway. Drag me back to...
3 people from Fontaine, 1 from Snezhnaya, and a crime committed in Port Ormos. What a headache. Well, we can only wait until the Academia sends someone to deal with it. I'm guessing we'll have to contact Fontaine as well. With the exhibition, we don't even have space in Port Ormos to detain anyone. Such a headache.
The hotel could suffice. You could station a few officers to... Although with Sylvain's mental state and my physical one, I don't think you need to worry.
Mr. Edgar, are you saying...
If Sylvain is to stand trial, then I deserve the same fate. A crime is a crime, accomplice or not. I'd just like to take care of a few things before I go. Say goodbye to my plants and all that. As for Sylvain, I'm sure he also has some goodbye. Would you be willing to grant that request, Sheriff?
Well, all right. I'll talk to the Academia. No matter who you are, the man we grew to know in Sumeru proved himself to be a good person. Your request is granted.
You have my thanks, Sheriff.
Happened tonight? Oh, you mean the possibility that Kyria...
Yeah! All we know is that he uses a goose to poison people, but we still have no idea how to catch him in the act! If he targets Sylvain or Edgar again, we might not be able to stop him!
That may be true, but what if we can take advantage of his desperation? If we take advantage of this situation and lure him in on purpose, we might finally...
Master, no! That's too dangerous.
So, that's your... If Kyria learns we're being taken away tomorrow, his last chance to enact his revenge would be... In other words, you want to use us as bait to capture it.
Capture? Not necessarily. I just want to talk. What?
Afraid? This is my only chance to make him pay for what he did. I'm spending the rest of my life in prison anyway. I can't just sit back and let him ride off into the sunset with our fortune. There's no way I'm letting him get up. As for the danger, everyone else just needs to make prep.
I'll admit, it could work. We just need to spread the word that Edgar and Sylvain are leaving tomorrow. Then I'll station some of my men around the hotel. If we have your assistance as well,
I still have some reservations. But if you insist on carrying out this plan, I won't deny you my help.
I'll also keep watch.
Although I think Sylvain and myself should remain alone in our... If Kyria noticed another person in the room, he might decide to turn back. And besides...
You mean if he doesn't see a way to get his hands on the two of...
if that were to happen, everyone's standing guard. Even the innocent citizens...
That's why everyone else needs to keep to the shadows.
You're still recovering. You need to rest.
This old pack of bones doesn't bounce back like it used.
All right, we can figure out a plan to keep watch later. Right now, I say we split up.
Have you heard? Mr. Edgar's been detained. He's being taken away to—
What? He's the one who helped craft all the fragrances for our shop.
He taught my child how to make perfume. How could this happen?
He hasn't been convicted yet. Let's just wait and see what the court has to say.
Oh, everyone on the street is talking about the rumors. No matter where Curie is hiding, he must have heard them. Let's head back to the hotel and take a break. We can see how the other preparations are going while we're at it.
Emily, Sheriff Xian wants to talk to you and the Traveler about our plans for the night watch.
Thank you, Kale. But first, here, I prepared a kind of herbal tea that helps calm the spirit. Why don't you have some?
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Oh, it's not good to be so tense, especially when we've got a long night ahead of us. You seem very preoccupied with Kiria's revenge. If there's anything you want to talk—
Oh, Hey, Emily, Kale. Oh, are we interrupting No, not at all. This will be easier to talk through with you here anyway. I've just been thinking. If Kiria has the capacity to commit murder while there was just a single door separating them. If his intention was to— When I accompanied Sylvain to his room after Lucien died, and saw how distraught he was, maybe Kiria did that on purpose. Maybe he wanted Sylvain to experience the pain of losing a loved one before he completed his ultimate revenge.
So did he attack Edgar as a warning then? To scare Sylvain and Lucien?
Based on what we've heard about Kiria, that may very well be the case.
Losing his sister all those years ago. Whenever I get to thinking like that, I just can't help but wonder. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't think like that. Not after everything he's done.
There's nothing wrong with the way you're feeling. In all my years of cleaning up crime scenes, I've witnessed countless families. Some of them even try to stop me, begging me not to erase the last remnants of their loved one. Surround yourself with fragrance for too long, and your sense of smell will become— So while you hold on to that sense of empathy, do Sylvain and Lucien really deserve to die? How much did they truly know about the Fatou? Answering those questions requires a lot of time and evidence, while a single act of vengeance— I've witnessed a lot of deaths in Fontaine. When someone dies, but generally speaking, death will just leave—
Once you're consumed by hatred, it will become next to impossible to think about things that way. For someone like Kiria, I'm sure
You're right. The fact that we can approach these questions from this perspective isn't because we're more but that also makes us perfectly positioned to stand on the outside and try to pull them back from the brink before it's too— I understand Kiria's decision, but I still want to stop him. Master, Sylvain, and Kiria.
The fortunate and the—
Emily, Traveler. Huh? Edgar.
Oh, it's you two! Didn't you head back to your room to rest, Edgar? Is it really okay for you to be—
A little exercise never hurt any. Besides, I don't have much time left in Sumeru.
We could do that for you, Master.
No need. I've grown attached to these flowers, and this is my last chance to— I would imagine Sheriff Sham—
The Night Watch! You mentioned earlier that we still need to
That's right. I've stationed some of my men around the surrounding area, but we still don't have anyone. Exactly. After some discussion, we concluded that Sylvain has the highest risk of being attacked next. You're the most— and Emily's expertise is sure to come in handy in a pinch. That's why I want you two stationed next to Sylvain's room.
Sounds perfectly reasonable. I'll be glad.
Not a peep. Has Kiria given up on his revenge? Guess we'll have to keep at it. Still nothing unusual. Paimon took a peek into the room next door and Sylvain's already sleeping.
Perhaps Kiria's true motive was simply forcing Sylvain to confess his crimes. No, that can't be right. If all he wanted was for Sylvain to be convicted for his true crimes, he could have tipped off the Marechaussee Phantom years ago. There must be something we're missing. Something—
Maybe we just need to calm down a little. How about some tea? That herbal blend from earlier was pretty tasty. You're right. Maybe we can look for a different distraction then, oh, there's a glaze lily here. Paimon didn't notice it earlier.
flowers, glaze lilies. Oh no! Sylvain's room! Quick!
Wait, what?
Hey, did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
It was the older of the merchant brothers, right?
Yeah, I think his name was Sylvain. Poor guy.
First it was Mr. Edgar, then that merchant named Lucian, and now...
Listen up, everyone. This is an active crime scene. Please.
It's been 3 days and they haven't even caught a glimpse of the guy. What?
Do you think it could be the work of an evil spirit? I mean, how do you get away with something like that with so many people watching?
Keep it moving, everyone. No loitering.
I suppose I'm next.
You don't know that. Kiria already attacked you once, and you survived. Perhaps...
You were the only reason I managed to survive, Emily.
Even if I wasn't there, Tainari was also in the vicinity. He would have been able to help.
Is that so? I suppose I have exceptional students, caring friends, and the respect of, but Kiria has nothing. It really makes you wonder,
If you really want an answer, I suppose you'll have to ask Kyria himself once we finally catch him.
Well, I hope it all... Emily, there's something else I'd like to ask of you. But so many flowers were transported here for the show. Whether Kyria gets to me first, or I'm sent back to Fontaine to stand trial, I know it's a lot to ask.
Of course, Master.
Really? Oh, now I truly have nothing to worry about.
Sheriff Sham still has some questions for me, so...
Go ahead. Best not to keep him waiting. He can be quite...
I'm sorry, Master.
Another all-nighter. Paimon sure hopes Emily's plan will go well. Oh, but Kali still looks quite worried. Let's go talk to her.
Emily still isn't back. I hope she didn't run into any trouble. Yeah, that's true.
Traveler, I had my men start spreading the information you requested. The crowd is gone now, too. After listening to Emily's plan, I started getting the materials together and arranging personnel. To be honest, I'm still not sure how the crime was committed that night.
The key clue was right in front of us the entire time! Let's go! We'll show you where the culprit hid a goose.
The glazed lily, huh? I think I've heard of it before. It's a...
Well, did you know it only blooms at night?
Emily, you're back!
Exactly as expected.
A flower that only blooms at night. Ah, like the Neelitpala lotus.
Exactly. Although the Neelitpala lotus wouldn't be a good... That's why Kyria chose the glaze lily as his mechanism.
If applied to the outside, you would still be able to smell a goose, even in the daytime. That doesn't sound... If poured into the flower pot, the liquid would seep into the soil. That doesn't sound... There's a sticky substance on the edge of the flower petals. It's one I recognize. If you stick the petals together with slime condensate, then, in the daytime, the glaze lily...
That's right! He applied a diluted form of slime condensate to the petals to stick them together, and enclosed it. That way, the agouste would remain trapped inside during the daytime, unable to seep between the petals and evaporate into the air. This also allowed the culprit to plant the poison. However, the diluted slime condensate wouldn't be viscous enough to prevent the petals of the glaze lily from opening at night. So by nightfall, the flower would...
And Kyria could execute his revenge without having to step foot inside the room during the night.
By the next morning, the sample of agouste would have nearly fully evaporated. the glaze lily would have already closed its petals, and any lingering odor would be concealed by the fragrance of the other flowers.
Wait a second. You're telling me this version of a goose is so toxic, inhaling the minute amount trapped inside a flower, and how did Edgar even survive ingesting a whole bottle of the stuff?
That's because a goose is just as dangerous now as it was all those years ago. The level of toxicity has never changed. Only
You mean people who are sensitive to elemental energy. So it's just some sort of happy coincidence that Sylvan... That can't be right. They were involved in the operation all those years ago. If the stuff gave them a bad reaction...
I wouldn't use the word allergic necessarily. It's more like they're susceptible to its effect. You can think of it this way. It's not that Sylvain and Lucian are innately sensitive to elemental energy, but that Kyria found a way to...
In Fontaine, I experienced how drinking primordial seawater made me more attuned to the element of hydro. That doesn't sound right. All kinds of essential oils commonly found in alchemical products can temporarily increase that doesn't sound right. The incense I smelled earlier seemed familiar. Thinking back up... In Sumeru, scholars use spirit borneal to aid meditation and stimulate... The incense I smelled earlier seemed familiar.
Alchemically produced essential oils, the primordial seawater that caused unrest in Fontaine not too long ago. All of those are
That stuff gave us a lot of trouble when we first came to Sumeru.
Ah, yes. I definitely remember that.
In Sumeru, it's not uncommon to use incense indoors, so its presence wouldn't arouse suspicion. The flowers in the room...
Flowers were pretty important to this plan, huh? The glaze lily is native to Liyue. It would be completely unnatural to have one here in Sumeru if it weren't...
Actually, it's not a coincidence at all.
No wonder he was willing to pay a small fortune to rent out the hotel.
He probably used the mora Yelena left him, don't you think? That money was supposed to... But in the end, it was just a tool for his revenge.
There's a saying among forensic doctors in Fontaine. Every step you take leaves them. But up until this point, we haven't been able to detect any trace of Kyria's activities. But because he's been disguised as someone else this entire time.
Creating such an intricate mechanism out of a glaze lily. Setting up this... It all points to one person. The mora spent to rent out the hotel. The way the Auguste flower was cultivated. It all points to one person. The boy... Kyria and Edgar are one and the same. I can't...
But Kyria was only in his teens back then. He wouldn't even be 40 years old by now. Edgar's lived here for so many years. Even if he changed his appearance, going that long without giving anything away, it would be...
Bad news, Sheriff! Mr. Edgar was attacked!
What?
A dark shadow-like figure just ran out of his room. It was giving off a really ominous aura. But before we could even react, the figure up and disappeared like some sort of ghost or something. By the time we got a look inside the room, Mr. Edgar... Do you think Kyria kidnapped him?
I need you to think very carefully about this. Are you certain that figure wasn't Edgar himself?
I mean, Mr. Edgar was so frail. I don't see how...
It would seem Master decided to tap into it.
What? But that's so dangerous with the condition he's in.
But why? Why would he do that?
No. If his aim was to target everyone who had a hand in
If he left Sylvain alive yesterday, not out of a desire to see him suffer, but to confirm,
then there's still one target left.
The shadow-like figure ran in the direction of the elevator, and my partner immediately chased after them.
We should hurry before they're forced to confront each other.
Where in the world did he go? Let's ask the merchants nearby.
A shadow-like figure with an ominous... Sorry, I didn't see anything.
Ghost! It's a ghost!
It's all right. Please, calm down and take a deep breath. Can you tell us what you saw?
I saw a black shadow. How could something like that happen?
This is terrifying. This is terrifying.
If we go any further, we'll be out of Port Ormos.
It's all right. I can detect a faint whiff of the scent from here. I would say he passed... It's this way. Please, follow me.
Farewell!
Rev the engines! Oh! O's! Are you all right? Were you attacked?
No, I'm all right. I was just...
Let me take a look.
The air definitely feels heavy. It smells nice, but for some reason...
this feeling, I've encountered it before.
Everything looks all right. It was probably just the stress of the chase, combined with the impact of the environment.
I can't rest. Mr. Edgar is still in there. He's a good man.
O's, you need to calm down and listen to me. Edgar is the one we're at.
But how is that possible? I thought Mr. Edgar is 70-something. Changing your appearance to look decades...
That's precisely why he had to resort to extraordinary measures to age himself. Kyria used a delusion to bring back the Auguste flower, corroding his body in the
No. He couldn't have. Mr. Edgar has been in Port Ormo.
And what if the impersonation started before he ever... I've yet to confirm it, but I suspect Kyria killed the real Edgar in Fontaine not long after his release from prison. While Edgar was incarcerated, Kyria started making preparations to replace him, including forcefully aging his body. The new Edgar then decided to relocate to Sumeru, seemingly out of an innocuous desire to let go of... And Sumeru fit the bill to a T, with no one around to question his identity. All he had to do was grow up. As the years went by, he removed his disguise little by little and continued to refine his skills. It would have been a gradual process.
That explains why Sylvain said he barely recognized Edgar back at the hotel. He aged himself decades beyond his years just so he could accomplish his revenge.
I need to find Mr. Edgar. He's not that kind of person. He can't be.
What you really need is to get out of here.
No, I can't.
Wait! This environment is likely being influenced by the delusion. Any discomfort, no matter how slight, I know how to relieve your symptoms, Mr. Ooze. Please come with me and rest. I'm sure Kyria... No, Edgar wouldn't want any...
Kale's right. The Traveler and I will take things from here. From our brief exposure to a goose, it would seem the substance has... This leads me to believe those blessed with a vision or capable of wielding elemental power are more resistant to the effects of abnormal elemental... And actually, now that I think about it, this stronghold likely has multiple points of... I hate to trouble you, but we need people to search...
Thanks. Hear that? We're heading out. There's work to be done. Ooze, head back to Port Ormo.
Traveler, Emily, Paimon, please be careful. For someone whose only purpose in life is revenge, there's no telling what...
Don't worry. This isn't the end. Not for us or for Kyria. We're not going to let a goose kill anyone else. It's time for the mythos... Neutralize! Monsters. Perhaps they were attracted here by the increased level of elemental energy. I was poorly prepared. Chia. I've never seen these seeds before. They must also have been created with the power of a delusion. It seems to be avoiding us, and there's no other way forward. Perhaps we could try luring it to the edge of the cliff.
Whoa, look at all the Auguste flowers! There are so many of them. Paimon can't believe a single person.
I fear that statement is truer than you know, Paimon. Using a delusion comes at...
But why would Kyria need this many? He only needed a few bottles of Auguste to carry out his plan.
Perhaps hatred wasn't the only emotion fueling his obsession with it. Not long ago, he told me he didn't want all the flowers transported to Sumeru to wither away in a... But Kyria betrayed Snezhnaya, abandoned Fontaine, and lived his entire life in Sumeru under the guise of someone else. For someone with nowhere to call home, perhaps dying among a bed of Auguste flowers just like his sister... brighten up the place. Reconstitute. A little ambiance. Extract. The scent of flowers is getting stronger. We're almost at the end. The scent of flowers is getting stronger. We're almost at the end.
Did they catch up that fast? No. My strength is just waning. But it doesn't matter. This...
This is a garden of Auguste flowers. But it's not mine. It's the one that was set on fire all those... Yelena? Yelena! You tried to hide it from me, but I always... The reason why you continued to use the delusion... The reason why you set your garden on fire... I shouldn't have listened to you that day. I shouldn't have taken the Mora and ran. But by the time I realized something wasn't right, there was nothing left. I know I'm almost 20 years too late. I should have come looking for... I should have died with you that day. Yelena? Yelena! No! Don't leave me! Yelena!
Emily? I'm alive. No, that's not...
That was an illusion, likely brought about by the residual toxin in your body coupled with the pollen in the air.
No, the amount of Auguste I drank, it should have been enough. A fake, but...
We started making the preparations last night with one goal in mind, to create a perfect accord. The accord is the basis of perfume making,
the product in its most primitive form. Ambergris mixed with cedarwood, rounded out with a base note of agarwood.
This is the scent of leather?
Exactly. We're unable to extract essential oils from leather, but by combining other raw materials, we can recreate its essence. That is the purpose of an accord.
Does that mean you can recreate any scent in the whole world?
I'm afraid not. Certain fragrances in this world are simply one of a kind. That quality is what draws people in and fuels their obsessions.
If I wear a goose to the ball, I'll also be one of a kind.
Our competitor already got their hands on it.
It doesn't matter how much it costs. I have to buy something better.
This fragrance will be one of a kind no more. Myths can be deconstructed. Miracles can be recreated. All it takes is skill, experience, limitless exploration, and a little patience. The only thing left is determining where the real Auguste is hidden. Pretending to be attacked means he's not free to move around. Auguste must be hidden within reach.
Paimon took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers.
The curator commissioned a flower pot from Kasharawar, capable of retaining heat and moisture.
Perfumes are as beautiful as flowers, and equally as delicate. When stored, you must take care to control the temperature and keep them away from direct sunlight. Did you get all that, Emily?
I got it.
Did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
So, Sylvain is dead. Is that right?
Yes, Master.
So, you switched the bottles of Auguste?
Convincing you that your revenge had been completed was the easiest way to—
Impossible. Even if you found a way to switch out the bottles. If Auguste was so easy to—
It was a combination of rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilias. Those ingredients would have conflicted with each other if you tried to but recently, we found a way for them to work.
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies.
Auguste was created over 10 years ago. All this time, people never stopped analyzing it. Perfumery techniques are advancing day by day. We've found better ways to extract essential oils, separate oils and fats. The mythos surrounding Auguste may have been untouchable almost 20 years ago, but now it's
the past.
You've been working as a perfumer for all these years. You should have always known that it is possible to make but the meaning you assigned to Auguste became so inflated. You believed in its divinity and grandeur. You believed it was entirely one of a kind. Your obsession with Auguste is also what allowed us to predict how you intended your—
We just didn't expect it to happen so fast.
Well, you hit the nail on the— So, Sylvain, since you've been preparing your accord since last night, I assume you— That means the news of Sylvain's death. The crowd gathered outside the hotel this morning.
Yes. If we hadn't, you might have resorted to the delusion out of desperation, or continued to use your Spirit Borneal and Auguste combination to wreak havoc.
Who knows? Maybe I would have just offed myself then and there.
I know if you had things your way, you would carry the truth of Edgar's demise and the secrets of this garden to the grave, but I'm so— Sylvain only inhaled a small amount of poison. All the crimes he concealed back then will be exposed in a court of law for everyone to see. And all—
Is that so? Well, I suppose I'll be spending the rest—
Whoa, he accepted that kind of fast.
I don't feel the need to justify my actions. Nor do I intend— I did what I set out to do. I may have lost in the end, but it was my choice of reason. But
Careful, everyone. This environment is dangerous.
Stick close and hurry up. We can't let Edgar die.
looks like I'm almost out of time.
Of course, Master.
the combination you used to make your accord.
The scent of a goose is complex and varied, yet the main ingredient consists of So, as I was analyzing the sample yesterday, I got to thinking, what if the scent of the Auguste flower was already imbued with that complex?
You're saying Yelena designed Auguste to have the scent?
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, Cecilias. The perfumers of the past knew that if you combine their essential oils directly, they would just cancel each other out. But if you cultivate a new flower species that intrinsically carries the unique features of those three scents, you can bypass that issue entirely. It goes without saying that
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Yelena.
Did you know? Miss Emily's releasing a new perfume! Right, I heard about that. I think it's...
Seems like everyone in Fontaine is talking about the new perfume you're releasing.
I was hoping to release it without such a fuss, but the news... I just hope it won't become the source of some new myth, especially after all the work we did to demystify Auguste. I did, although I made a few modifications to the formula to make the scent more pleasant and long-lasting. I actually brought a few samples with me today. I hope they're to your liking. Also, I was hoping you could try out the fragrance before I officially release it and tell me your thoughts.
Of course! A good sense of taste and sense of smell go hand in hand, you know? Just lick... Oh, it smells great!
It's all right. All feedback is worth considering. Besides, when it comes to perfume, commenting on whether it smells good is the most straightforward assessment you can ask for. There doesn't always have to be a deeper meaning.
Right! Do those flowers have some special meaning? Hearing their names seemed to have an effect on him.
If I had to guess...
A language of flowers? Oh, we've heard of that before! Paimon remembers hearing...
What each flower is said to represent varies by person and across different moments in history. The same is true for the flowers that make up the scent of Auguste. After returning to Fontaine, I did some research, and it turns out the meanings of those three flowers can be reassembled to form a single phrase. Forget the past and keep on living. Perhaps that's the legacy Yelena always intended, not the nobility and grandeur most people associate with Auguste.
Do you think Kiria knew about that?
I paid him a visit before his trial and explained what I found, but he didn't seem to care. Who knows? Maybe she didn't mean anything by it at all. That was his response. Yelena is gone. We'll never know what she was thinking. We can look for meaning all we want, but it'll never be anything but conjecture. Even if that is what she was trying to say, I would never be able to forget her. Avenging her death? That was the meaning. Kiria cultivated his revenge like a flower. He was committed to making... In any case, he did want me to pass along his thanks. Thank you for saving my life. For giving me the chance to... Love and hatred are a privilege of the living. When someone dies, their thoughts, feelings, and intentions die with them. But even if it's only a conjecture, the meaning we give to flowers, the symbolism we assign to our perfume, and yet at the very outset, they're born from the simplest and most...